What's going on, guys? You're listening to The Engine on YouTube. Welcome back to another NBA Top 50 All-Time Players list. Thank you guys for the support that we've had in the past couple of weeks. We've gained more subscribers and views than we've had in the past couple of weeks combined just now, so that's awesome. We're starting out this video today with one of the most influential, and get ready, we're going to say that word a lot today, influential, but this is one of the most influential European players, Dirk Nowitzki. Some would call him the first 7-foot. He really started the movement of stretch big European players. Nick Freeman started up.
Yeah, now he's so influential in the NBA, as you said earlier. He's a 7-footer. He came from Germany. He was kind of unheard of, like a weird draft pick for the Mavericks. I think he actually got traded there. But when the Mavericks got him, no one was expecting such a star. Most of the European guys who came before him, like Arvydas Sabonis and Tony Kukoc, were solid role players, but none lived up to that Dirk Nowitzki Hall of Famer hype. He's definitely deserves to be here. 2011 NBA champion. In 2007, he won the MVP. He took his team to the finals also in 2006. He may not look like an absolute carrier, but he really can lead a team as well as anybody, and has influenced a new wave of European players 100%. He's the guy from overseas.
Yeah, definitely from overseas, but also for stretch big man. He's probably the best pure stretch big man, pure shooter in NBA history of someone who's of his size. And his form is absolutely amazing. And there was no social media back then. There was just rumblings of this guy who resembled Larry Bird and was a lot taller and could shoot from literally anywhere.
Well, it's not like Dirk is
I think what's so interesting about Dirk Nowitzki is he's the first and the best so far, but he's definitely not going to be the best for, like, you see all these European players coming in, like Kristaps is a great example. Luka Doncic, yeah. I know he's not the same build, but no. Kristaps Porzingis is one of, like, he's built like just like Dirk, and you've got other players like Sabonis, and you've got other like Luka Doncic players, like European players are becoming more popular, and there's been a lot of busts, but
I think Dirk loves that. I think he wants to get beaten.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a while.
Moving on to number 19, the logo, Jerry West. Obviously, none of us have ever seen a live game from Jerry West, but this guy was 5-time All-Defensive, 12-time All-NBA, 1971, 1972 MVP, 1971, 1972 NBA champion. Nick Falk, what can you tell us?
So, 1969 Finals MVP, averaged 38 points a game, and fun fact, they did not actually win the Finals. That's the only first Finals MVP award given out, and the only one that was given out to a player on a team that did not win the Finals. One of the most clutch players ever. Iconic. He's the logo. Underrated defensive player, as you said. 5-time All-Defensive and a really good shooter.
Yeah, not much I can add. Just a great scorer and all-around player. Just could not get past those Bill Russell Celtics teams until the end of his career.
We will get to that. Number 18, Julius Erving, Dr. J. You talk about influential players. I mean, everybody talks about, like, watching old footage. Michael Jordan's talked about it in The Last Dance. Isaiah Thomas talked about it. Larry Bird, James Worthy. They've all talked about it. Great players. They watched Julius Erving growing up. This guy invented just, like, being an absolute just athletic, like, running coast to coast, dunking when it wasn't a thing, and then it came into, and then it was allowed, and to really put it on the forefront. Nick Freeman, what do you got?
Yeah, he was the swagger of the ABA-NBA merger era. He was the guy back then, him and Moses Malone. He won an NBA championship, 4-time MVP, which is crazy. The reason I had him pretty high on my list, he was 15th on my personal list, was just because when you ask Michael Jordan, when you ask LeBron who their best players of all time list is, Dr. J is higher on their list than anyone else has him. The greats look up to Dr. J as the greatest.
Yeah, that is true, but I think part of that also goes to just how cool he was. No matter how good he was going to be with that afro and those flying dunks, it was just amazing. But he was very good. He averaged 30 points a game for a good amount of seasons. Over his career, he averaged 24 and 8 rebounds, which are just pretty amazing stats. I mean, high-flying, one of the coolest players in NBA history.
Moving on to number 17, the all-time second leading all-time scorer, Karl Malone, the mailman. But instead of doing what we've done before, I just want to talk about how this guy is unquestionably, a little bit disputedly, the biggest loser in basketball history. Karl Malone. Is he overrated? Is he too high on this list? I mean, I just want to, before you guys get a word in, he lost to the Bulls twice. His last season in the NBA, 2004, he goes to the Lakers just to get a championship. They're trying to four-peat. They lose to Chauncey Billups and the Pistons. Friend of the show, Chauncey, hope you're watching. What do we have to say about Karl Malone here?
The most consistent scorer of all time. He was dominant for around 20 years.
Is he the most consistent scorer of all time?
He's up there.
In terms of putting up points, literally every single year without getting injured. He's literally the only player in NBA history to make 11 All-NBA first teams. I mean, of course, there are better scorers than him, but he was dominant. But he was probably the greatest choker in NBA history. He made the playoffs, I think, maybe 18 out of those 20 years he was on the Jazz. And they lost almost immediately every time in the first round. And there were some historic chokes in his career.
Yeah, there's a story in the 98 finals. I think Pippen told him, don't choke. Or he said, the mailman doesn't deliver on Sundays. And I guess the game was on a Sunday. And he missed 2 free throws just so Jordan could have that iconic shot over Byron Russell. But anyway, with Karl Malone, you guys are talking about the negatives, his choking ability, his not winning, and is he overrated? I think the fact that he's the second highest scorer of all time and 17th on our list kind of accounts for those negatives, just because you would think the second highest scorer of all time would be higher, but because he has those negative storylines, he is lower on this list, so I think 17 is a pretty good spot for him.
To answer your question, I agree with you. I don't think he's overrated. To be fair to him, they went to the playoffs they were almost every year during that era. So I think it's unfair to say he was a complete loser. It's just in the big moments he didn't actually do anything.
Okay, moving on to number 16. We've got Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade's a very interesting player, and I will come out and say right here, I had Dwayne Wade 1 higher than Kobe, which is disputable. I think I could flip them back and forth. I think it's a thought in my mind. Sometimes I think Dwayne Wade's better. Sometimes I think Kobe's better. I think because Dwayne Wade's younger than Kobe, right? And he was more consistent later on in his career only because he was 2 years younger. I know you guys gave me hate for me putting Dwayne Wade 1 higher. It's like what I just said 2 seconds ago. It's like sometimes I think Dwayne Wade's better. Sometimes I think Kobe's better. But I think you look at Kobe, and we'll get to Kobe obviously in like another episode. Kobe had the most shot attempts in NBA history and still shot 45% from the field. So I don't know. Dwayne Wade it's a toss-up in my head. Nick Falk.
DWade's a legend. Nick Friedman. DWade's a legend, but he's not Kobe. I mean, Kobe has the mentality. He's just would put up 40 a night, and then after the game, shoot it 1,000 times just to get better. He had that drive, and you don't see that out of DWade. He also has 5 championships. DWade doesn't. I think the knock on Kobe is that he shoots too much, and you can't produce winning basketball with him. What people assume, but you actually can produce winning basketball with him with those 5 rings. So I think Kobe does everything better. But if we are talking DWade, he's a stud. I disagree with you putting him number 10 on your list. I had him at 18, which is, I think, or it's kind of a consensus worldwide around there. He averaged 30 points per game. He had a legendary 2006 finals run, and then he had 2 later in his career. He's great, but to me, he's not the Mamba.
I agree with you. You know, his stats might come close, but I still think Kobe's stats are better alone. But he's just not the Mamba. His mentality is not the same. He isn't the heir apparent to Jordan. He's not on the same level. But, I mean, you got to give credit to Kobe. But Dwayne Wade was amazing. That finals run was amazing. People sometimes forget about that. Because all they think about, at least people our age, all they think of is the 2012 to 2014 Heat teams. So I think he's a little high, but I'm not too mad at where he is on this list.
So number 15, we've got Bill Russell, and I will come out and say it. I do think he is, and how about this? Let's set it up this way. I'll talk. You guys can talk. You guys can load up and just fire the questions at me. We'll respond. Let's do this civilly. Bill Russell, number 15. Let's talk about the good things first. He is the most winning player in NBA history, 11 championships, unprecedented. Not going to take that much away from it. But I will ask this question to you guys to start the debate. Are his 11 rings more impressive than Jordan's 6 or Magic Johnson's 5? Nick Falk started out, and then we'll move it along.
No, because I had him lower on this list. They obviously aren't, but you have to – the transitional period, he did play with 8 teams, But the narrative that he played against a bunch of scrubs is not true, because he played against Wilt Chamberlain and he dominated him.
I disagree.
Every
Hold
year.
on, Nick Falk. I disagree.
Go ahead.
I disagree.
Go ahead.
So they played 4 Game 7s when Wilt Chamberlain was on the Lakers, right? Okay. Do you know what the combined of all those scores, 4 Game 7s, okay?
4 wins to 0 losses.
Yes. Actually 4-1, but we'll get to that in a second, whatever. Wilt
Bill
Chamberlain
Russell never lost
that series.
in the finals.
Yeah.
He lost to Wilt Chamberlain when Wilt Chamberlain was on the Sixers in 1967, but anyways, Bill Russell and that Lakers or that Sixers or Celtics. I'm sorry, I'm stumbling. So they lost 4-0. Okay, yep. In those Game 7s, I'm stumbling. In combined 9 points. All those games combined, 9-point loss. It was marginal. Okay, it wasn't as bad as you're making it seem. You're making it seem like it was a complete beat down.
But
also, let's just mention that they had John Havlicek, Bob Cousy, Sam Jones, Tom Heinsohn, Henson, whatever, it's a weird last name, Casey Jones, and Bill Sharma.
All right, you know why?
Hold on.
I need
to
not
go.
because they're good at basketball, because they played on Bill Russell's teams and won 11 championships.
Yeah,
not because they're good at basketball. Bill Russell won 11 rings. He was the best player on that team. He's one of the best rebounders ever. He invented blocking the ball and not blocking it out of bounds. Yeah. I don't know how it wasn't invented earlier, but that's still really impressive. Every single big man since then is looking to get Bill Russell's glory. Okay. I don't care if
so they're trying to shoot 57% from the free throw line. They're trying to shoot 57% from the free throw line.
To answer to what Johnny was saying about that, I was over-exaggerating Bill Russell's dominance. He won 11 championships, and Wilt Chamberlain was playing him every year. You had Wilt Chamberlain at 3 and Bill Russell at 29. Bill Russell did average 15 points, but he put up 22 rebounds a game over his career. And his players, all of them you just mentioned, are mainly because of him. He is the ultimate NBA teammate, the ultimate sports teammate, and the ultimate winner.
And I think if Wilt put up 15 a game, his teams would be much more successful. Bill Russell was doing that so his teams could win. If he wanted to, he could put up 30 a game probably. He was dominant.
You're saying Bill Russell
could put up 53.
30 a game?
I don't think he's as dominant as Wilt athletically, but I think
in 1964, when they extended the lane to 16 feet, his points per game lowered 3 points. He went from 15 to 12 points per game. I don't think
they win the championship that year.
He was. Did they win the championship?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, he was also older, but I think just putting Wilt above him, his scoring, his dominance is amazing. But that doesn't matter if you get crushed every year in the championship. You never win a championship when Bill Russell's there.
It's inarguable. Like, nobody would win 8 ever in a row ever again. Like, it's never going to happen. I think you really have to consider, we touched on it like a little bit. He was playing against 8 teams. It was 8 different. Like, it wasn't. Also, he doesn't have to play that long of playoff series. Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan sometimes have to play 15, 20 playoff games. Bill Russell just didn't have to do that.
Yeah, okay, that's true, but he still won 11. Like, he still won 11. No matter what happened, he still won 11.
And here's the way I feel. I understand knocking Bill Russell on this list because he doesn't have the individual accolades that other players have besides team wins. I had him super high. I had him at 5 on my list because I value team. If you don't value winning as much as points maybe or other stats, I can understand having him low. Putting him all the way down at 30 to me is ridiculous. But I understand some of your argument.
Okay, we do have to move on. So we're on to number 14, Big O. His stats have another guy. I'm not going to say he's that overrated, but Russell Westbrook has made his legacy a little bit seem not as impressive. Nick Falk, what do you think?
Nick Freeman, I think, right?
Oh, yeah, it's me.
I don't know. We're going back and forth.
We're going back and forth.
Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, Oscar Robertson's a stud. I'm not going to talk about Bill Russell in this one, but he wasn't as good as Bill Russell. But anyway, he was an NBA champion on one of the best teams ever. Him and Kareem were an amazing duo. He's the best rookie ever. You saw that in the Last Dance trivia question, but I believe his rookie stats, he almost averaged a 30-point triple-double. And he did that twice, which 5 years ago seemed impossible to ever do. He also 12-time All-Star, 11-time NBA, amazing passer, great defender, and he's one of those guys in the 60s and 70s who I know we're going to keep saying this word, but influential.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think it's definitely more underwhelming in terms of Russell Westbrook. I think he is a little high. I think all of us, we've never watched him play, but all of us don't think Oscar Robertson is that great. He is a little grumpy on TV, which moved him down a little bit on my list. But, I mean, he is the triple-double king. Russell Westbrook's good and all, but he is triple-double king. But if you look back in that era, they took tons of shots. So it's when you really dig in deep, it's not as impressive as it seems.
Also, Oscar.
I think I'd take Russell Westbrook over Oscar Robertson, just due to the athletic ability. Like, that's the main guy comparing to, same numbers and everything, whatever.
It's different eras. When you're going for greatness, though, there is no Westbrook without Oscar Robertson. So I don't think you can necessarily do that.
But I'm not. Are you saying the student can't become better than the teacher? I think Russell Westbrook, I would take him over Oscar Robertson.
Yeah, but it's also the basketball evolution is much different. So I wouldn't put him above him on this list. But I agree with you. If I had to choose between the two, I'd actually take Russell Westbrook.
So moving on to number 13, David Robinson, another guy who we're noticing a little bit of a pattern with the stats are a little weird for David Robinson. He had those 5 seasons where he's just unbelievable. When you look at his PER, I think he's 5th or 4th, something like that. I want to say, but David Robinson's just a very, very interesting player where he had to miss 2 years because of naval service. I'm a little confused. I think we're on Nick Falk, though. Nick Falk, take it away.
Yeah. So 10-time All-Star, 10-time All-NBA, 8-time All-Defensive, 1995 MVP and 92 Defensive Player of the Year, and then a 2-time NBA champ. He averaged 3 blocks a game. I mean, just look at pictures of him. He is very, very dominant. He wasn't great for a long time in his 2 championships in 98 and 99, I think, and 2003. He was kind of carried by his teammate Tim Duncan. But he was very dominant. He's scoring. He could score from literally anywhere, and he bullied Shaq in a couple of those games.
Yeah, personally, I think he's too high on this list. But at the same time, he's a really great guy. He chose to go to the Navy, and that's kind of why he had a shorter career. But when in his career, he was a stud, one of the most analytically sound players ever. Shot so well. He one time put up 70 points in a game. He was just a walking bucket.
I mean, that game was a little flawed.
It's still pretty cool though, and I think that he won his championships only when Tim Duncan joined the team, and without Michael Jordan, the NBA obviously lowers him a little bit. So I think 13 is a little high on this list, but he's still an absolute stud center.
I think we all agree that he is an underrated NBA great, but I do think this is a little too high.
I think it's interesting that I don't think he's underrated. On our list, he's a little too high, but I think it's interesting. He's one of those players. Some people say he's underrated, some people say he's overrated, but we do have to move on to number 12, Steph Curry. But let's talk about it again. People who have changed the game, people who are the most influential. Steph Curry pretty much flipped basketball, not the moment he stepped in, but it happened slowly, but eventually. Steph Curry has changed the entire basketball era forever. How many people can say that? There's so many things you can talk about with Steph Curry, how he was 6-time All-NBA, 2015, 2016 scoring champion, how he was unanimous MVP, how he won MVP back-to-back, and he was on the most winning team in NBA history. I know they lost the finals, but still. Nick Friedman, what do you think about Steph Curry?
I think there was a time where Steph Curry legitimately had an argument that he was better than LeBron, just because their games were so different, and Steph Curry's game was so new. But he was so fun to watch, and he still is an absolute stud. He has those 3-time NBA champion or 3 NBA championships, no Finals MVPs, which eventually is going to hurt his legacy. But he's definitely not a choker. Absolute stud, and just you said it before, how much he's changed how basketball is played. Guys pulling up from 30 feet, there would be no LaMelo Ball, there would be no Trae Young without Steph Curry, and he's just an absolute stud. I think 12 is a really good spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, you have to shoot the ball to score, and he's the best shooter in NBA history, without a doubt, in volume and efficiency. But, I mean, I thought all of you guys have him a little bit lower than this, but we all had him around 10 to 12, which is pretty amazing. I mean, the reasoning behind that is, he's a great shooter, but he's not as good in some of these other categories as these greats. But I think as time passes by, since all these Warrior bandwagon fans, everyone hated the Warriors, Steph Curry just a little guy that runs around and shoots, people are going to appreciate Steph Curry down the line.
I was thinking that, and yesterday on NBA TV they were showing the Thunder 2016, how they choked the 3-1 lead against the Warriors. And because Steph Curry hasn't played this year, it's the same thing that happened with Kawhi Leonard 2 years ago. Same thing that happened with Anthony Davis last year. People forget about how good Steph Curry is. Go back, watch those highlights. This guy's an absolute scoring monster. But we got to move on to number 11, another scoring monster, Kevin Durant, former teammate of Steph Curry, also didn't play this year, hoping the same thing will happen next year where people are sleeping on Kevin Durant. But this guy is an absolute monster. You talk about a guy who would be good in any era. I know you guys are going to agree with me on that. Kevin Durant might be, I know Nick Freeman wants to say it, I'm going to say it before he can, one of the most unguardable players in NBA history. It's just so hard to guard him. And my favorite stat of his, and before we get into Nick Freeman talking about it, this guy played an NBA Finals game with a partially torn Achilles, dropped 20 points, then tore Achilles, was out. This guy, all the hate he gets is deserved. I agree, it's deserved. But he still put it on for his team when it mattered most and was willing to tear his Achilles for his bandwagon team that people said he didn't care about. Nick Freeman, I'm losing my breath. Please go ahead.
Well, unfortunately, it was off again, but 10-time All-Star, I actually agree with everything you just said there. A 7-footer who can shoot from anywhere, possibly maybe the most unguardable player.
It's honestly, it's like you can talk about anything, it's just stupid. It's literally
it's stupid. But I think the thing people underrate is when he did do that stupid cupcake move to go onto the Warriors. Everyone hated it, and it should hurt his legacy. But everyone knew he was the best player when a player we just talked about, Stephen Curry, was on the court. Everyone knew he was the best player on that team. He dominated. 2 times Finals MVP. He dominated in the playoffs. And, Steph Curry is great and all, but he was just give him the ball and he'll put it up from anywhere.
Yeah, Johnny kind of mentioned that I was going to say this, but I don't think anybody in NBA history can guard Kevin Durant. I think you put a smaller guy on him, he's going to shoot right over you. Like that, it's that easy. You can't just put your hand up. He just shoots right over you because he's 6'11". Then you put a big guy on him, he blows by you. He's also a pretty good defender, just such an all-around player. He's always a little overshadowed by LeBron, always being the second best in the NBA. But I think when his career is done, he's a top 10 player of all time. Already number 11 on our list. It's just he's so unguardable. It's crazy to me. He doesn't have the same volume scoring other players have, but he definitely is one of the best scorers of all time, and just a really great all-around player who's been one of the best player of the 2000s and mostly 2010s.
So I have a question for you guys. What would he have to do on the Nets, assuming that's one of the last teams he plays for, probably, if not the last? What would he have to do to cement himself in the top 10 of NBA great players?
I think he'd have to go to another finals. I don't know if he necessarily needs to win it, but you don't like Kyrie Irving, and the team's pretty good. The Nets team is pretty good, but they're pretty good. I like them. I like the pieces they have, but they're not going to go to the finals with just Kyrie Irving. They need Kevin Durant. If they can go to the finals and they can beat the Bucks, because this Bucks team is fantastic. Okay, this Bucks team is. He can beat Giannis. He's beaten LeBron before. He had a lot of help to beat LeBron. He needed the help to beat LeBron because he couldn't beat him by himself with Westbrook. He needed the help, but if he can go and beat Giannis and go to the finals, assuming that he's playing Giannis or whoever he's playing, and maybe if he beats Kawhi Leonard or if he beats LeBron James in the finals or anything like that, I think that's the only way he can cement it. But I don't think it's possible. This wasn't your question, but I don't think it's possible for him to be better than LeBron. I don't think it's ever going to be possible for him to be better.
I mean, they're also different ages. Personally, I think with Durant might already be better than LeBron. It hurts to say it, but it might be true. But personally,
are you talking about talent? Or are you talking about legacy? Because I think I'm talking legacy.
Talent,
okay.
I think legacy.
No.
I think what you're saying right now is you're saying the classic. Is Aaron Rodgers more talented than Tom Brady? Yes, but the legacy's out there. Yeah. I think that's what I'm arguing with you.
I think we can all agree on that.
For me, for him to make the top 10, he's already number 11 on my list. So I think honestly, if he just plays a couple more seasons and it's just normal Kevin Durant, he probably doesn't even need an NBA championship to make my top 10, but that would really help his legacy.
Maybe another MVP. It doesn't have to. It'll be subtle. It can be subtle.
A scoring title.
scoring title, anything like that. But he'll never win a scoring title again. James Harden's too good. That will do it for this episode of Top 50 NBA Players. A lot of new episodes, a lot of new shows coming for you guys this week. Sorry, we've been kind of lacking for the past couple of days, but we're back with more content this week. Look forward to it, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.